Well, they've been several times. And so just calling up one is always something that's going to be, you try to find the right one for the right thing. But in my life, there's been numerous times that the clock was running and I needed to score. And I had to call on friends and my own experiences until I searched the right play, the right idea to get the ball across the goal line. And one of the ideas came about when I left United Airlines to take another job. I joined United because it was the friendly skies, but 18 years later, it wasn't. And so I made the tough decision to move on to another position that could give me what I was looking for and give me the challenges that I needed. And so I took the risk and joined Brit Airways from United Airlines. I would have been their next vice president, their senior vice president of marketing, and son of the man who made United Airlines what it was when I was there. Bill Patterson came to my going away party and let me know, if you want to come back, there's always going to be a place for you here. But I knew I would likely never be president of United Airlines. And I didn't want to be the one turning out the lights and was headed in a direction that was different from the United Airlines I started with.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I'm so glad you decided to join me and my guest today because we've got a great conversation in store for you that's going to shed some light on your leadership journey and the decisions you make along that path. His name is Bill Gammon. Bill, are you ready for kickoff?
I am ready, Mary Lou.
Me too. I am so excited. And team, Bill is coming to us today from a small town called Towson, Maryland, and he is a huge Raiders fan. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But first of all, I want to share a few details about Bill and his leadership journey. He's got a great story to tell. He got his start at United Airlines and quickly moved along through the ranks. He became a financial advisor. He's an award-winning sales executive. He has helped numerous people get clarity about their own path around their calling, which is a big deal. When you don't know what your calling is, it's so hard to make sound decisions. And Bill is giving back to the people he works with now after so many decades of tremendous success that he has been fortunate to experience. And not just because of all his great work, because he worked with coaches and mentors, and now he himself is doing the same. So, Bill, would you be so kind? Tell us your leadership story. When did you get the call to leadership? What was happening in your life when that happened? And how has it shaped the man that you are today?
I will be happy to share that with you, Mary Lou. My story started many years ago in the fact that my parents were divorced when I was very young. And so I grew up without my father. And when I was completing my sophomore year of high school, my dad came to our town from Manila, where he was the general manager of a textile firm, and asked me to go live with him in the Philippines for a year. And I and my younger sister did. And I came back a year later knowing a lot that I didn't know. But as I came back, I was a senior. One of the things I'd learned was to play chess. And the person I played chess with was a boy named Manolito Diaz. And Manolito had a father and grandfather that were both grandmasters. So he beat me a lot. By the time I left, I could beat him a few times now and then. And so when I came back and I was a senior and a member of the chess club at the high school, I could play the entire chess club at the same time and not lose a game. I learned that when you have a good mentor and coach from that experience, you can become a master. So through life, I've had the good fortune of running into many different coaches and seeking them out to help me achieve my goals at the time on a quicker and more efficient manner. And over time, the lessons that I've learned over the last 5 decades are in my hip pocket, and I'm available to share them with others like me who want to achieve their goal in a quick and efficient manner. And so I've become a mentor. Life has made me a sage, and I can help a lot of people make a lot of money. I did it in the financial business. I'm doing it in the coaching business. And I decided to be a coach because those folks that helped me got me where I am. And now it's my turn to help others. So I wrote a book, Fast Track Your Business Journey and Thrive Along the Pathway. And I'll share that with your visitors and your viewers for free. So I'm happy to share the entire journey with you and do what we can to help those who really want my help. On my website at Gammon and Associates .net, N-E-T, the first sentence on About Me says, I work with serious business people, entrepreneurs, who want to get to their goals and enjoy more of their life along the journey.
Mm-hmm. When you work with entrepreneurs and business people, Bill, what do you find is the greatest obstacle? If you could succinctly point to a couple of commonalities, what stops people from achieving the goals they may say out loud? Oh, I want this and that and the other thing, but they never get it. What is it that stops so many people from achieving the level of success that they either imagine for themselves or they see out in the world, and then it doesn't happen for them?
What I have found, and I think is true of everyone, is that a lot of people set goals like New Year's resolutions, but by February, they're already in the hole. They're behind in the game. And the reason is they don't have the complete commitment, and they don't have a coach or someone to hold them accountable to achieve that goal, to help them clarify that goal, to help them lay out a roadmap to their success with milestones along the way of the journey, to celebrate the victories, because you need to celebrate individual victories to stay positive. And as you do that, you go to the next one. And once you lay out the goal and the journey, you need to focus on one goal at a time. Do the next right thing and achieve it and do it well. And then move to the second one and the third one at each step along the path. It's like eating an elephant. It takes a lot of bites and a lot of cooking to get the job done.
Right. Now, you were talking about learning to play chess when you were an adolescent living in the Philippines, and you were taught by a master, and you lost a lot to that master. Talk about, if you wouldn't mind, how does losing help us become great leaders?
Great people that accomplish great things have lost a lot. Look at Edison. Look at Einstein. Look at all the big winners in the world, current ones. Also, if you're going to achieve great things, you're going to have to undergo some losses along the way and not be overcome with them. You know, if you took a piece of paper and you put a line down the center of the page and the line left and right across it, the one that crosses that line is hope. Until you get on the north side of hope, you're not positive and you don't stay positive. When you go to the south side, you don't perform as well. So one of the things you have to do is manage your attitude and keep it positive on your pathway. And the best way to do that is with a coach who is there to hold your hand and light your path along that journey so that you stay focused. And when you have the setbacks that do occur in all of our lives. You don't go south into depression and spiral down. You stay on the north side and you spiral up. One of my coaches that I ran into over my life was named Norman Vincent Peale, and everybody's heard of him, The Power of Positive Thinking. I met him when I was in Pensacola, Florida at Naval Air Station and attending First Baptist Church. And Camille came through the Gulf Coast that year and tore it up. One of the biggest hurricanes we'd ever had. At the time, it was the fifth largest one in the nation's history. Our church went over to Pascagoula, Mississippi, and rebuilt a little church. And he came to give us a sermon and award for being the Church of the Year in the United States the year before. And one of the things Dr. Peale said in that sermon was, thank God for the bottom. Because when you're at the bottom, there's no way to go but up.
Mm.
I've remembered that. I've shared that with a lot of people that found it helpful like I did. It's something that's a gift that someone else gives you at a time when you need it most.
Mm. That's beautiful. That's really a beautiful sentiment. And it's hard sometimes to accept that we are going to hit the bottom. We don't want to, but...
No, we don't. But the river of life has a lot of twists and turns in it.
Yes,
and
it
sometimes
does.
the next one has a waterfall that you go over.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to keep swimming.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a story about a time when you went over a waterfall, Bill? I mean, obviously metaphorically, of course, but when things didn't go according to your game plan, you thought you had everything figured out. You think about some of the great football coaches or any kind of sports coach who maps out this amazing strategy, and during execution, everything falls apart. Was there a time in your life when you faced something like that, and what happened?
Well, when I was in Pensacola, Florida, I went there to take a job at Naval Air Station for the industry, representing not just United Airlines, but all the airlines. And I put myself through college at night. And at the time, one of the reasons I went there is I knew that I could go to work during the day and I could complete my education at night. As I mentioned, my parents were divorced when I was young, and so I didn't have a two-parent family to fund my education. So I went to register, and they told me I could only take 2 classes instead of 4. I wanted to take 4. So I got the base commander, I got the pastor of the First Baptist Church, and I got 3 business leaders in the Pensacola area to write T. Felton Harrison, the president of Pensacola Junior College, a letter. And when I walked into his office to talk to him, he said, now, son, I'm going to give you the chance to take 4 classes, but don't mess it up. 6 months later, I got a letter from T. Felton Harrison awarding me a full boat scholarship as the outstanding student of the school. You don't get places without taking risk. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have obstacles, there's ways to do an end run. There's ways to go around or over some of those obstacles to your success. I graduated that school with honors as I did the University of Iowa, where I got a 3.89 out of 4.0 grade point average in business and marketing while working full time. And the job I was working with at United Airlines was an interesting job. I was a sales representative covering Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa. And I was also responsible for the sports team. So I got to meet all the athletic directors of the Big Ten. I got to take them to the Final Four or the Rose Bowl if they earned the trip. Mm. And so I had a lot of opportunities in life, and along the way, a lot of mentors and coaches.
It sounds like your journey has really fit the bill of a true leader. You as a young man, you faced early obstacles with your parents being divorced, and then even though you chose to go, to accept your father's invitation to go live in Manila in the Philippines, that still brought with it big changes for you. You know, you
And
were in a
big
different
risk.
culture and it was a big risk, right? And then you come back as a senior in high school, having been gone for a year, and you grew and changed. And it sounds like you've lived in a lot of different places and worked for different companies, especially some of the large ones. You were telling me in the pre-chat, you've mentioned now you worked for United Airlines. And then you also worked for British Airlines and Brit Airways, and witnessed something pretty phenomenal when you were there. Tell us that story about it and how that helped shape you as a leader.
Well, in each step, I took on more responsibility. For example, when I went to Brit Airways, I went as director of sales. Then I took over sales and marketing, then reservation, sales, marketing, schedules, and pricing. And then the airline was sold to Don Burr at People Express, and it just wasn't the fit for me. I value people. They valued money.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a fit. So I chose to leave. I met a man named Joe Massotti, who was in charge of Shearson, Lehman Hutton in Indianapolis. I'd never lived in Indianapolis, but Joe told me, son, you can do well for your clients and yourself if you just work half the time. I said, it sounds pretty good, Joe. He said, now tell me which 12 hours you want to work every day. And I did. I became a vice president with Shearson within 6 months. I had an office. Everybody else that started was in the bullpen. And the first meeting I went to New York, their senior vice president of sales told the group, look to the left, look to the right. 2 or 3 of you will be gone in a year. I decided it wasn't going to be me. So I made 300 cold calls a day. I brought in a lot of people and made them wealthy because my goal was to turn my clients into friends and make them wealthy rather than my friends into clients.
Wow, that is a great flipping of the typical script, isn't it? Right? And you've been successful in sales, and sales for a lot of people is really hard, and they avoid it at all. They don't even want to do it.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
When you work with people who are either high potentials or, they're being groomed to become sales professionals, what are some of the lessons that you like to impart to people? How do you become, besides that amazing, wisdom you just shared about don't focus on turning your friends into clients, focus on turning clients into friends? That's a beautiful nugget, golden nugget that I've just written down. But there's got to be some other things in your toolkit that you pass along to help business people become better at sales, because if you're not selling, you don't have a business.
Exactly. And regardless of what business it is, sales is one of the key areas where you must have growth. And the only way to grow any business is to deliver what you promise, to satisfy your clients, to give them everything they're looking for and then some. And that brings in not just their money, but their friends and their neighbors from referrals, which is a much easier sale than the initial sale for all of us. But when you're running a business, there are really 3 key numbers. And most people are very proficient at doing their business, whether they might be a doctor, a lawyer, an electrician, a mechanic, whatever. But they don't really know business as well as they know their craft. And so there are 3 very important numbers for all the businesses that are out there. They are sales. How much revenue you got coming in? The cost of goods sold, expenses, and your cost of overhead, which yields a profit. Those 3 numbers. And there are things that you can do to control those numbers. And I work with people initially to get them focused on how to work on the numbers to bring money in quick and continue to grow the business efficiently. And so that's the way I've gone about it, is I try to find out what they want, help them clarify their goals, and then help them co-create a roadmap to that journey of success that they're looking for. And whether they're currently at a $500,000 a year, they want to go to $1 million. If they're $1 million, they want to go to $2 million. And here's the truth of the matter. When you get to the peak of one mountain, you can always see other peaks, and you always want to go other places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have found that when you have a coach, regardless of the business, you get better focus. You avoid the quicksand and the traps. And so you don't make the mistakes, and you go beyond those to what your goals are, and you get there quicker and faster if that coach does what I just said. And then he lights your path along your way and holds your hand and keeps you accountable to do what you said you were going to do. That's why people don't get there. And a coach and a mentor coach especially will do the job that you expect.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client recently, and he lives in the Denver area. And he told me after the first session with me, and this was really an epiphany for me, that, Bill, I've learned more from spending the last hour with you than I did in a year with other coaches. Because you really delved into what we're talking about. You've already told me something that I can fix that was holding me back.
Do you mind sharing what that something was?
In his case, he had an episode in his past that he had not forgiven himself for.
Oh.
And that's not something easy for a coach to help someone with. But I used a simple story. I said, look, you told me you go fishing a lot. And when you go fishing, you're out in the boat, and sometimes you put the anchor out. And that anchor holds your boat.
Mm.
But the problem you have is like an anchor on your boat. You need to take out your fishing knife and reach behind you and cut that rope to that anchor and go on downstream to where there are other fish. Because that episode in your past is in the past, and you should leave it there.
Mm. And
he hadn't thought about it that way. And once he did, he ate that frog. He did what he needed to do.
To quote Brian Tracy, that's a great book. Eat that frog.
Well, Brian Tracy is another coach that was in my life many years ago when I first started in the financial business. I went out to his place in San Diego and spent some time with him. And so there have been a lot of good people in my life to help me do different things. And one of the things I learned from him is to get what you need to get, you need to focus on the important things and not just the things that you got to do. And you have to understand what's important and rank it, and then go through the ranks to achieve it.
Mm-hmm. And for listeners who aren't familiar with Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog, I'll put a link to it on Bill's show notes page, because Brian Tracy clearly has influenced you, Bill. But it's a timeless classic. The subtitle is 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Done in Less Time. I don't know anybody who doesn't want that. More done in less time, right? That's a promise that is made. You were made that by your mentor. And, you chuckle about it because it's like, which 12 hours are you going to pick? At the end of the day, we have to invest time. There are no shortcuts. There are no hacks. There are no secrets. There are no, hidden things. At the end of the day, the lessons that you teach are those universal truths that have applied to humans throughout time. It doesn't matter that we're living in a highly technical environment versus, say, when Socrates was alive and talking about know thyself. You still have to know thyself. You still have to know what your priorities are. And that's something that you're really good at helping people understand. And I just want to affirm for you that story that you just shared about the anchor and the boat is so powerful and so beautiful for us to all remember, what are the anchors that are holding us to our past that may be impeding the progress that we want to make. And that is what a good coach can do, is he or she can provide a metaphor that suddenly opens up the vision for, wow, I didn't ever think of it that way. And then the part about accountability. It takes a very special person to hold themselves accountable 100% of the time. And I think I don't know if it's possible. We need others to be there to point things out to us, to hear what we're saying and call us out and say, listen, this is what I'm hearing. And it's not a strike against a person. It's really coming from a place of love and wanting to help them develop the awareness so they can grow. And I can tell, Bill, that that's something you're really, really good at. Along with when you meet people, you one of the things that you are really good at too is helping people clarify their calling in the work that they do and in the world they move in. Could you talk a little bit about that process that you use with people? How does somebody get clarity on what their calling is, especially if they are running in a million different directions?
Well, first they talk to someone like you or me, who's a mentor, to help them go through and sort out where they are, what they're doing, and the real possibilities and what they really want to focus on and accomplish. And once we come out with those, it's sort of like brainstorming. You just put them all out. They got a piece of paper and right there and everything you want to do between now and the time God leaves you here. And so then you go back and you look at those things to decide how to rank them and what's really important. And as you do that, the things that are most important to you will gravitate up to the top, like cream in a bottle of milk, fresh from the creamery. It comes to the top. And then you work on the first thing in that journey, the first step. Like the Chinese say, a big journey starts with the first step. If you just focus on one thing at a time, you will avoid the overload that everyone is faced with today in the COVID world we live in, doing more with less and accomplishing what you need. And you won't worry about it because you'll focus on the things that mean most to you and the people you're working with and helping. And then you will see miracles happen.
Mm-hmm.
Those miracles will happen because you're focused on what you love. And when you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life.
True story. You and I did not grow up with the internet. And I'm sure your path crosses people who have become not products of the internet, but really immersed in the internet culture. What do you say to leaders about things like social media platforms and getting caught up in all the, it's really easy to go down a lot of different rabbit holes when you click onto your phone or the internet through a tablet or your computer. Going back to your leadership journey, I guess it's something that you need to talk to people about. What is some of your advice around, I guess, coming to terms with this thing called the internet? It is part of our lives. I mean, you and I are using the internet right now to have this conversation. It's important. I imagine you have worked with some people over the years who perhaps the pendulum was swinging too far over to one side, like they're too dependent on the internet versus you talked about making 300 cold calls a day. Is that something that a lot of people just bristle at when you bring up, like, listen, you got to pick up the phone. You got to talk to people. Like, well, we want to do email marketing, or we want to just do social media marketing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's my thoughts, and here's the truth that I try to share with people. Regardless what business you're in, it's a people business. people do business with who they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't come from email or the internet. It comes from sincere, transparent, authentic conversations with people. And they see through the glitz and glitter. They find the trustworthy, but sometimes they look for them a long time and they look in wrong places. The story I told earlier, that man ran into some people in the internet that were more interested in money, like the people at People Express brought Brit Airways, than they were in people.
Mm-hmm.
When you work with someone you know that cares, you will open up. You'll be honest and authentic too. And once you are, that person can help you become your real successful self that all of us want to be.
It's true. It always comes down to people. There is no business without people, despite the rise in machine learning and artificial intelligence. Those are tools. In fact, I was reading recently about that whole industry is kind of having a aha moment of recognizing we'll never have a completely robotic world. Humans will always play a role in being bridges between the tech and humans. You know, machine learning and artificial intelligence and algorithms are, good for certain things, but not everything. I don't know anybody who wants to come home at night to a robot, and sit at a dinner table with a robot. We want people around us. Pete, that's what makes it interesting.
Exactly. There's an old song out there called I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That somebody is never going to be a robot.
Oh, now I'm going to have that song in my head all day. Oh, Whitney Houston. It's a great song.
There are a lot of Gammonisms that my clients learn over time.
I love it. Oh, share a couple more. There's got to be more in that wonderful toolkit.
I just don't have a list of them, but they just come out of me.
They just come out.
When you have my kind of background and experience, you have a wealth of data in your computer. And that computer in your head or mine is available for us to access. We just have to make sure we pave the right highways in our own minds, because that's the way we change and build the paths that we need. There are other paths and journeys already up there, but we need to build new roads to get from where we are to where we want to go in our minds.
Mm-hmm. So very true. Well, we are at the part of the show that I call Touchdown, Bill, and I know you're a big fan. We were talking about that in the pre-chat. So work with me here. I'm putting you in the red zone. There are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You are down by 4 points, so it is now or never. Tell us a story about a time when you helped to get that ball into the metaphorical end zone for the game-winning touchdown.
Well, there have been several times, and so just calling up one is always something that's going to be, you try to find the right one for the right thing. But in my life, there's been numerous times that the clock was running and I needed to score. And I had to call on friends and my own experiences until I searched the right play, the right idea to get the ball across the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ideas came about when I left United Airlines to take another job. I joined United because it was the friendly skies, but 18 years later, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the tough decision to move on to another position that could give me what I was looking for and give me the challenges that I needed. And so I took the risk and joined Brit Airways from United Airlines. I would have been their next vice president, their senior vice president of marketing, and son of the man who made United Airlines what it was when I was there. Bill Patterson came to my going away party and let me know, if you want to come back, there's always going to be a place for you here. But I knew I would likely never be president of United Airlines. And I didn't want to be the one turning out the lights and was headed in a direction that was different from the United Airlines I started with. And so I took the risk. And along our life's journey, we all have opportunities to take risk or not take risk. And it's sort of like the turtle. Unless you stick your head out and take a risk, you don't go too far. And so I took that risk, and I've taken other risk. And I found that along the way, when you take risk, you find new people and friends who need your help, who you can help, who will also help you. And whether my coach was a mentor coach or a boss or someone else that was called in to help me overcome something, sometimes it was a lady like Betty Brown, who was my secretary at Brit Airways, who could help with an idea to get from where I was to where I needed to go. To do the things I needed to do, I needed to call on a lot of different people and a lot of different experiences. And so to just call on one wouldn't be fair, because I have dozens of those things in the past. And it seems to me that the right one usually comes to the surface. It says, do this or do that. And so when I was in the financial business, I had a little 8 by 12 frame with a knitting of the words, just do the next right thing, that I kept in my office, that was made for me by my Aunt Beulah. And I've always tried to be guided by that, because when we do what we believe to be right, even if we failed in trying something that just doesn't work today. It may have worked yesterday, but it won't work today or tomorrow. I got a degree in marketing from the University of Iowa, but it was in 1979. Marketing is different in 2022 than it was in 1979. The internet was not working the same way back then. Mm-hmm. You had to dial up and hear a lot of strange tones. Your computer wouldn't do what a watch will do today. So the world is different, and we also need to different. We need to change and grow each year to be able to deal with the things that face us each year. And you never stop learning.
Mm-mm. You sure don't. Boy, the wisdom your aunt passed on to you, I love that. Just do the next right thing. And it goes back to the beginning of this conversation today when you talked about goal setting. You set one goal and you do the things that you need to do to achieve that goal. And then you go on to the next one. And one of the challenges of a very distracted world with so many things coming at us all the time is being able to focus. And that story you just shared showcases that risk-taking, although can be scary, it often is scary, is often the next right thing that a person needs to do. So for any of you listening today, Team PYP, perhaps you're on a precipice like Bill was when the company you're either working for, or perhaps you started a company and you're realizing it's no longer what you thought it was. Don't be afraid to pull up that anchor or cut the chains to that anchor and take a risk. I love that theme. And then the other theme that came out today that I really grabbed onto is this idea of leaving, leadership and leaving. And it's tied to risk taking, but sometimes we just have to let go. Let go of a story in our head, let go of the promise of a position. Perhaps somebody has been talking to us about, like you said, you could have become senior VP. You could have, you had moved up and climbed that ladder, but that's not what you wanted because your values and the company's values were no longer aligned. Sometimes leaders, we have to leave. And, where are you going? Well, clarity comes with time. It's not always a lightning bolt of insight. And a great coach, the way Bill is, the way you are, Bill, can really help. And it's not going to be forever. You just said, we have people in our lives everywhere who can guide us. And I think it comes down to developing the awareness that sometimes the least obvious person could be the most powerful in guiding us into our next phase. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And for people who'd like to know more about you, Bill, and you mentioned your website earlier, you mention it again. Where do you hang out online? And where can people get your book?
Okay. People can download a free copy of my book by going to my website at Gammon, Gammon, and Associates, ASSOCIETES.net. And also, while they're there, if they want to chat with me, bring me a question, any question. I'm happy to answer it for them. And I do a lot of things for people before I ask them to become a client.
Right.
And quite honestly, even after I help someone plan a journey, I ask the question, would you like my help? That's the only sales question I ask people. If they want it, I'm here. If they don't, I wish them well. I'm not a pressure person. I never was or will be. And so my interest is helping those who want to grow their business and who want to get there faster, quicker, and easier. And I make it easy for them to say yes. I'll give you another Gammonism before I leave. My grandmother said, when you're green, you grow. And when you're ripe, you rot. So stay green.
Wow. I think let's end on that note. What a beautiful way to sum up a fabulous conversation today, Bill. Thank you so much for stopping by the Play Your Position podcast and sharing your decades of hard-earned wisdom and just being you. I really appreciate everything you do in the world.
Thank you, Mary Lou. It'd be my pleasure, my privilege to help any of your guests achieve their goals, just like others have helped me gain mine.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.